Kherson under attack again. These images filmed by a Russian drone as Russian missiles demolish more of the skyline. Ukrainian officials in the southeastern city say an elderly man was killed today. North and east along the front line, 2 more people killed by artillery fire in the town of Nikopol. While overnight the city of Dnipro was hit by a mass drone attack, killing 3 people and injuring 30.
2 boys were injured and a girl ran in and just collapsed right there. Whether it was the blast wave or a door that hit her, we don't even know.
It was quiet, and then all of a sudden drones started to land, one after another. I have no words to explain. I'm still in shock.
Donald Trump has in recent weeks expressed impatience with Russia's go-slow on ceasefire talks, at the weekend saying there would come a time to put up or shut up. An opening perhaps for President Zelenskyy to try to turn the tide with Trump, talking up the prospect of the minerals and resources deal that fell apart during the 2 men's contentious Oval Office meeting in February.
You're gambling with World War III.
The memorandum of intent, not the agreement itself. The memorandum of intent can be signed online today.
But he also took his latest swipe at President Trump's friend and envoy, Steve Witkoff.
I believe that Mr. Witkoff has adopted the strategy of the Russian side. I believe that it is very dangerous, because consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, he is spreading Russian narratives.
In Paris, Witkoff may have begun today with his eye on Elysee gold rather than Ukrainian minerals, just like Mar-a-Lago, he ventured. But his closeness to Trump has made him key to crises from Gaza to Iran to Ukraine, the actual Secretary of State waiting his turn to shake the hand of Emmanuel Macron. The French president hosting UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, along with high-level Ukrainian and American delegations, calling for a convergence of effort. He's long argued for greater US pressure on Russia. From Moscow, though, the message was that Witkoff would be able to use the talks to convey what he learned from his 4-hour discussion with Vladimir Putin last week. This from Putin's own emerging all-purpose envoy.
The meeting was extremely productive, but as I said before, many people, structures and countries are trying to disrupt our dialogue with the United States.
So far, that dialogue has done little to slow the conflict. The Ukrainian military today releasing video, it says, shows a switch in Russian tactics to larger-scale assaults as it attempts to claim more territory.
Well, earlier I spoke to Ian Bremmer, who's president of the Eurasia Group, which looks at the impact which politics has on risk and markets. I began by asking him about the latest developments and Mr. Trump's hints about a possible minerals deal with Ukraine, possibly a deal with the EU. Was this a sign that the president is in some form of retreat?
I wouldn't go that far. I do think that they want to see some announcements that are positive. And for example, I just talked to a Japanese delegation. They know that their prime minister might well fall, their government might fall if they don't get a deal with the Americans soon. And so they're working very assiduously to get something announced with lots of additional investment into the United States, buying more LNG, all that kind of stuff. And Trump will announce it and he'll do a victory lap. But China's not that easy. It's going to take a lot longer, if ever. Europe is certainly not that easy. It's going to take a lot longer. And there's going to be a lot of pain in the interim. Russia, Ukraine. Trump's done a pretty strong job beating up the Ukrainians and convincing them they need to accept a ceasefire without preconditions. Hasn't done that at all with the Russians. Going to take a lot longer, if at all. So it's a very mixed message. But on balance, if you had to choose between you get the deals, but you also get the pain and the damage, almost everybody out there would rather go back to the status quo ante.
Of course, Trump would be saying, as he always does, that he's winning big time. Is he winning at all?
Again, he's winning in some places. I mean, you can't say that he's losing everywhere. There will be wins. But on balance, what we're seeing is a lot of damage to the U.S. economy. We're going to see a lot of damage, not just to the markets, but to the U.S. business community, to the average American taxpayer, citizen, consumer, who's going to have to deal with a lot higher prices, of course, which is why he's so angry at his own appointed Fed chief at this point, Powell. And you're also not seeing wins in terms of, most importantly, how countries around the world don't trust the United States. And long term, the damage from that is going to be very substantial.
And I wonder what you're worried by more. Is it the kind of throwing spaghetti at the geopolitical wall to see what sticks, undermining, very long-standing tested alliances with your best friends in Europe? Or is it the domestic revolution, from everything, against universities like Harvard, against the rule of law when he's told that he shouldn't deport someone? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here all at the same time. What troubles you most?
By far, the domestic. The United States today is, of course, still by far the most powerful country in the world, the strongest economy, the reserve currency. And yet today, the U.S. is by far the most dysfunctional, kleptocratic, and unfree of the advanced industrial democracies, of the G7.
And how do you see that panning out? I mean, do you see the beginnings of some kind of resistance from the lawyers, from the judges, from the universities? And what will happen to that resistance?
Harvard is, of course, by far not just the most prestigious, but also has the largest endowment of any U.S. or any global institution of higher learning. Stanford, my own, immediately came on board and supported Harvard. Many other universities will. Courage is contagious, Matt, and it's particularly contagious when some of the wealthiest and most powerful start standing up. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that going forward.
And just on the China trade war, I mean, other countries have been, calling the White House, they've been visiting, clamoring for one deal or another. The Chinese haven't done that. And of course, their tariffs are in a completely different stratosphere to everyone else's. Do you think this is the moment that maybe China relishes, where China can test itself against the mettle of the United States and could end up winning?
The Chinese understand that they can outlast Trump, that they are more politically patient than the American political system will be, and that as they outlast him, they will develop better relations with the Southeast Asians, better relations across the global South, better relations with Japan and South Korea, perhaps even better relations with the Europeans. And as the Americans pull out of the global institutions that the U.S. has led, like, for example, the World Health Organization or the Paris Climate Accord, who do you think is going to be dominant in the next year COP summit on climate? It's not going to be the U.S., it'll be China. China understands that very, very well, Matt.
Ian Bremmer, thanks very much.
Good to talk to you again.
And in the last few minutes, Donald Trump has said that he expects a minerals deal with Ukraine to be signed next Thursday. He added that he expected to hear back from Russia about a ceasefire this week. Very shortly, he said, declaring, "We want the death, we want the killing to stop."